Hello, this is Kurt Wallner. Today we're going to head into that mysterious building known as the East Wing. Not as famous as its counterpart, the West Wing, the East Wing has its own interesting history. When Thomas Jefferson moved into the White House in 1801, the grounds were littered with outbuildings of all descriptions, and he decided that he wanted to consolidate all of these in wings, much as he had done at his residence Monticello in Charlottesville, Virginia. For the President's House, Jefferson wanted the wings to connect with the Treasury Department building and the War Department building. And halfway in between these two places were going to be large gatehouses. The gatehouse in the middle of the East Wing was actually constructed, and at Christmas time in 1806, the arch of the gatehouse collapsed because the cement hadn't set properly in the winter atmosphere, and that was the end of that. The East Wing contained a smokehouse, privies, servants' quarters, a hen house, horse stables, and later the area was used by the White House gardeners for composting. In 1866, President Johnson, Andrew Johnson, decided to give the White House a thorough cleansing from top to bottom, and it was decided that the East Wing, with its composting uses and so on, was too far disintegrated to be restored, so it was actually torn down. Sometime during the second of Grover Cleveland's administrations, a small colonnade was built outside of the east side of the residence, and this would become the public entrance for events and dinners and so forth. During Teddy Roosevelt's administration in 1902, he had hired the eminent architect Charles McKim to do a lot of work on the White House, and this included building the beginnings of the West Wing that we know today. Similarly, he suggested rebuilding much of the colonnaded part of the East Wing to serve as an expanded entrance lobby for the public. There was a more classical entrance, a security office, and a coat room. With the coming of World War II, Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew that he was going to require some more office space on the White House grounds. And it wasn't until December 7th, 1941, that he consulted with the White House architect, Lorenzo Wilson, to design an office building that would go on the East Wing. Construction was begun almost immediately, and it masked the fact that the Army had suggested that a bomb shelter be constructed at the White House, and so the construction of the East Wing concealed this from the public. And apparently it's about 7 stories underground. I don't know where it is, so I don't include it in any of my drawings, but apparently FDR visited it once, said, "Oh," and then left and never visited it again. It was too grim for him. Today, almost everybody who visits the White House enters through the visitors lobby, goes through the garden room and the East Colonnade past the family movie theater and into the residence proper on the ground floor level. So the East Wing doesn't get a lot of publicity, but many more people have actually visited there than the famous West Wing, I think. So let's take a closer look at this part of the White House that doesn't receive as much press. Trying to figure out a composition for the East Wing, I have to face an uncomfortable fact. There are only 3 spaces of the building that I'm really comfortable with drawing. On the second floor in the corner is the First Lady's office. And then on the first floor, there is the visitor's lobby, and that connects with the garden room and the east colonnade that goes by the movie theater. So all of these areas I know something about, and this is going to have some bearing on how I compose my shot, so to speak. Because the White House is both open to the public and popular, it's on Google Maps. We've all been there. You just wander around and click and move through the space, and you can go through the visitors lobby and the garden room and the West Colonnade and down the colonnade past the movie theater and into what they call the visitors foyer and into the ground floor hall. This is really an amazing resource for someone like myself who is trying to draw all of these spaces. They're really very detailed, and you can get all kinds of architectural information out of these things. So the way I approached this was to begin with isolating the part of the White House floor plan that I wanted to utilize, in this case the bulk of the East Wing block and where the family movie theater is. This led to a thumbnail sketch of what I wanted the composition to look like. I was trying to connect the East Wing and the colonnade to the bulk of the residence, but the composition didn't really work out all that well. I was losing too much. I decided to move in closer in my second thumbnail and develop that into a perspective cage. Because the East Wing is not in the Historical American Building Survey, I've had to sort of look at the photos and try and figure out what the heights are of everything by making a lot of elevation drawings of various parts of the building. I have the width and the breadth of everything, but I need to figure out the height, and because of the stair that is involved, and a lot of other things, it's very important to get all of these relationships correct before beginning. Fortunately, there are enough published photographs of the first spouse's office during the Obama years that I was able to sketch that in a pretty detailed manner. Being an old movie buff, I was especially interested in drawing the family theater, which was established during FDR's time in the White House. The room had gold drapes, blue walls, and gold-trimmed chairs with a kind of a gray upholstery. It's been redecorated several times since FDR's days. Of course, during the Truman renovation, the room was stripped to its bare essentials while they tunneled underneath it to install all kinds of stuff. This picture taken during the Eisenhower administration shows Ike in the front row on the left. I guess all of the tuxedo-clad gentlemen are maybe watching a stag movie or something. During the Clinton years, they had many Hollywood people out to the screening room, including in the front row, Lew Wasserman and his wife Edith, and Ron Howard, the director, is standing next to the door on the right. They're having a screening of his film Cinderella Man. Interesting choice of chintz, light blue and green for the drapes. Not sure that would go today. Today doesn't have to look at the Clinton decorations. Around 2006, the George W. Bushes redecorated the theater. More classic red, mahogany, plush chairs, the works. It seems very cush. Getting all of the chairs and the screen and everything like that was a great pleasure for me. So the finished pencil is kind of awesome. It's a very intense look down and cutting into the cavity of the building, and I think it's really cool. Join us on our next episode where we'll color in this drawing. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel if you would. Thank you for your attention. Until next time, bye-bye.